Good morning from California. It is 10 o'clock and it's time for this month's SAS Features Webinar. We will get started in just a moment. We usually give folks a few minutes to join up if they're watching us live. So we're going to play about 2.5 minutes of music and we'll get started. If you are watching this on the replay, you can fast forward 2.5 minutes and we'll get started then. Hi there. Welcome to today's session. I'm Jonathan Westerling, Manager of Special Programs for Google's SAS team. And whether you have a PAL license or whether you're only going to be using GAA Spectrum after PALs go live on April 15th, today we're going to give you a few tips about how to operate your CBRS network in an area where priority access licenses will be used. Plus, we're going to give you a live sneak peek demo of what the SAS is going to look like, what PALs will look like in our SAS portal. So you'll be among the first people to see what that actually looks like. So welcome, let's switch to my slide deck here and we'll get started. So our agenda looks like this. We are going to first provide sort of an overview, a real quick heads up, make sure we're all on the same page about PALs, and then we'll talk about PAL protection and the PPA creation process. Don't worry about those, all those letters, we'll define those as we go along. We'll look specifically at GAA operation for those of you who aren't using PALs, who are going to just be using GAA devices. We've got some tips for you as well. Show you how to check your FRN in the SAS portal. That is a new thing which just got unveiled today. And then we'll do that live demo I talked about of PALs in the SAS portal. At the end, we'll have a Q&A, and I'll tell you about some of the help resources we have in place. If during the Q&A, you can ask questions live. The best way to ask those questions is here on the YouTube chat. If you've never used chat on YouTube, on your first try, you might see a message asking you to create a channel. It's just asking you to set up a YouTube identity to be able to ask questions. Shouldn't ask you for anything more than your name. Once you put that in, you can type in and ask your questions there. And please remember there's about a 30-second or more delay in the broadcast. So there's a lag time between when I see your question and when you get the answer. So it's not quite real time, but do post your questions as you have them, and we'll try to answer them as quickly as we can here during the Q&A period. So as we get started, we want to talk about that terminology that relates specifically to PALs. And so if you're joining us and you've sort of heard about PALs, but you're not really sure what all of this means, and you've tuned in to get a sort of an overview, let's provide everyone with some knowledge about what this terminology means, because we're going to be using these terms throughout the presentation today. First of all, PAL stands for Priority Access License, and what that does is it gives the right to an operator to get protection from GAA interference on a particular channel within a specific county. So remember that means that PAL license is specific to a channel and a county. And that's a key point, because you have to remember that if a PAL user is on their PAL channel in a particular place, that's just one channel, right? There's a bunch of channels in CBRS. But specifically, we're going to be looking at a PAL channel during today's webinar. Now, if you have a PAL, you can create what's called a PAL protection area. And with Google SAS, that happens automatically. I'll talk about that in a moment. The PAL protection area is a portion of the county where CBSDs using their PAL channel are protected from the GAA interference. So the PAL gives them protection, but they only actually get that protection within their PAL protection area, and that's an area around the CBSD. And I'll show you some graphics that talk about exactly how that works. So if it's a little confusing, don't worry, we'll bring you up to speed. The last key term is CPAS and IAP, which is all you really need to know about that is it's a nightly data sync between the SASs, and it's also where the PPAs actually get created. So during that overnight data sync, the PPAs, those PAL protection areas, get created, and it's that which generates the protection for the priority access licenses, those PAL licensees. So that's a general overview of terms that we'll be using during our webinar. So let's start with taking a graphical look at what the PPAs look like. Now there are 4 CBSDs on this map. This blue one here is a PAL owner. So this is the PAL licensee here. And these green guys here, 1, 2, 3, are GAA operators. So they don't possess a PAL in this county on this channel. So they're using GAA channels. And I should also mention that this graphic is specific to after April 15th. PALs are launching on April 15th. So what you're seeing here is a world after April 15th. So we're sort of looking into the future. So let's look first at the PAL owner. Their CBSD is here, and the PPA has been automatically created around their device. Now you can't see the whole thing here because we're zoomed in a little bit. But this pink is the PPA. It's the area within which this CBSD is protected from GAA interference. Now let's look at the GAA operators. Now this first operator here, and I'll try not to move my mouse so the little thingy goes away there, okay. This first guy within the PPA is, the CBSD is located within the PPA boundary. So its grant on this channel is going to be terminated after CPAS. That CBSD is going to have to request a grant on a different channel in order to continue operation. Similarly, but slightly different, is this one up here. This is a GAA operator who is located near the PPA, and you can kind of see his antennas pointing in towards the pallet boundary here. And its grant is going to be terminated if it is too close to the PPA, if it's causing interference within the PPA boundary with its signal. So what that means, it's going to have to either request the same grant with a lower EIRP to reduce that interference, or go to another channel to prevent causing interference within the PPA boundary. The last guy over here, different operator, is far away from the PPA. It also happens to have the antenna facing completely in the other direction. And that GAA person, even though they are in the same county as the PAL license holder, does not currently have any impact because he's nowhere near the PPA, and it's not going to cause any interference. So for that GAA device, it's going to be have no impact from that PAL. So those are the different scenarios of CBSDs operating on a PAL channel near a PPA. So beyond that, we need to dive a little bit deeper, and there's a lot of information on this slide. I'm going to take you through it so you can understand what we're showing here. But this is the process for PAL Go Live. This is what's going to happen on April 15th. And I'm going to walk you through for two different scenarios here. First, for the PAL operator in blue, and then those GAA operators in green. So we're looking at our timeline here. This is April 14th at 11:59 p.m. or before that. Okay. The first stuff that happens, we'll start by looking at the PAL operator scenario. So the PAL operator right now can use any available channel that they want. There's no PALs existing yet. But before April 14th at midnight, they can, if they want to, they can request a grant on their PAL channel. And as I understand it, the PAL channel mapping is going to become available on April 10th. So anytime after April 10th, when this PAL licensee knows their PAL channels, they could, if they want to, be on the, get protection from day one. If they really want to take advantage of that PAL right away, then they are going to need to move, or at least request a grant on their PAL channel. They request that grant, and then CPAS will begin at midnight. CPAS is what we talked about in terms of that process that's creating the PPAs. And here's what happens during CPAS. First thing that happens is the PPAs are created, and that's because the PAL device has a grant. It's requested a grant on its PAL channel. So a PPA is going to be created for that PAL operator's CBSD. The next thing is the SASs all exchange the PPAs that have been created. So the SASs exchange all the PPAs, and after that's happened, and after CPAS is completed, around 3 o'clock in the morning, the PPAs are then going to be protected. And what that means for our PAL operator is his or her CBSDs using the PAL channel in PAL areas are going to be protected. And also, at that point, the spectrum inquiry is going to show those devices their PAL channels. So two important things there. The first thing is at 3 o'clock, the protection kicks in. The other thing that's cool is at that point, those PAL devices, if you're a PAL operator, once that first CPAS is finished, you're actually going to see your PAL channels in your spectrum inquiry. And that will continue beyond that time. So that will make it easier to determine which are your PAL channels, but that doesn't happen until after PAL Go Live. So that's the scenario for a PAL operator. And I'm going to go through it. We have a question from someone. I'm going to hold on to that question. Rohan, thanks for asking your question. I'm going to answer that in just a second. I want to finish this timeline because it's a little bit of a complex slide, and then we'll go back and grab your question. So we looked at the PAL Go Live scenario for a PAL operator. Let's rewind the clock now. We're rewinding back to April 14th before PAL Go Live, and we're going to look at the same timeline for the GAA operator's perspective. So before April 15th, right now, obviously, GAA operator can use any channels that are available to them. After CPAS, the PPAs which are protected might impact any grants on the PAL channel inside or interfering with the PPA. So a GAA operator with grants on the PAL channel and whose grants interfere with the PPA, those grants are going to be terminated. And as I talked about before, the GAA operators will have to request a new grant, and they can use spectrum inquiry to help with that. We've got 2 slides on the tools we have to help GAA operators with this scenario. So don't worry, we got you covered. And that's the PAL Go Live timeline. Now, Rohan K asked a question in the chat, which is, can you please explain again about lower EIRP for the CBSD inside the PPA? So I'm going to go back one slide and mention that actually, to answer your question, Rohan, if the device is inside the PPA, there's no lower EIRP that's going to be available. So any devices that are actually located in the PPA do have to terminate their grant on that channel. It's devices outside the PPA, but close by, that have the opportunity to lower the EIRP. So if you want to stay on the same channel, or you have to stay on the same channel for some reason, but your grant gets terminated because of a PAL issue, you can just request a lower EIRP. So that will essentially, it turns down your power a little bit so you're no longer causing interference within the PPA boundary. And that's what you'll have to do there. And Spectrum Inquiry, I think, will guide you in that case if you have access to the Spectrum Inquiry. We also have some tools in the SAS to help GAA operators in this scenario. I'm going to get to those in a second. So it's a good forward-looking question, Rohan. I hope I answered it. And thanks for joining us here this morning for our PAL presentation. Now, two other important things that I want to mention about this timeline that are sort of corner cases, a little bit extra detail. These are pro tips. We'll call them pro tips for you since you joined us and you're watching this webinar. So you get to learn something extra here. The first thing is that after Go Live, any grants that exist that are multi-channel grants, so there's more than one channel, and if those grants include both a PAL channel and a GAA channel, those grants are actually going to be terminated as well. That's called a mixed grant. And the spec doesn't allow mixed grants to exist. So if you are a PAL operator and you have both PAL and GAA grants, if they're on a grant that has both PAL and GAA channels in the same grant, you're going to have to terminate that and separate those out. Get rid of that mixed grant and have one grant for your PAL channels and one grant for your GAA channels. So that's your pro tip for PAL operators there. The other thing to remember is this timeline is not just for PAL Go Live. This is going to happen every night after April 15th. Any CBSD that requests a PAL channel during the day is going to result in a PPA getting created or updated that evening, that overnight during CPAS. So those are two other things to remember about that. Now we're going to get to our GAA tools, are things that we've got in place to help GAA folks. I do try to take questions as they come in because it makes the Q&A a little shorter. So let's see, if we don't get too many, I'll take them as we go. Otherwise, we might have to hold off to the Q&A. Anyway, Sean Meyer, thanks for joining us this morning. Sean says, or asks, how will we request new grants on the PAL channels without causing customer downtime? To send a new on awarded PAL channels, I think a new grant on awarded PAL channels, we will have to deregister the existing grant. Great question. Yeah, when a grant is terminated, it can cause customer downtime. The important thing here is to ask your device manufacturer if they support simultaneous multiple grants. The ideal situation here would be that you can proactively request a second grant that's not on the PAL channel. And that's one way to help with that scenario. I might have some other idea. There might be some other ideas coming later on in the webinar here. So Sean, hopefully that gets you started. I'll dive into that a little more during the Q&A. How's that? David Johnson asks another forward-leading question. How is the size of the protected area decided? I'm going to explain that. I'm going to show that to you, David. Hang in there. We'll get to that in just a second. Domenico Delorio asks, how PAL operator is identified by the SAS? Will the user ID in the CBSD registration procedure do the work? Yes, it will, Domenico, and I'm going to show that to you in our slide about PAL operators. So great questions, folks. And And thanks for joining us. I'm going to cover all of that coming up. Let's proceed to the next couple slides, and your questions will be answered. And if they're not, we got the Q&A at the end, don't worry. So now we're going to look specifically at GAA, a GAA operator scenario. And this sort of is getting to what Sean asked earlier about a grant that gets terminated for a GAA. How do we deal with that GAA recovery? Okay, the SAS can come to your rescue here. And there's two things to remember. The first is spectrum inquiry. And this can happen instantly, as soon as your grant gets terminated. And the key note here is to check with your vendor to see if they have a software release to help you recover dynamically from the termination. So what that means is your CBSD can use spectrum inquiry to immediately find the channel that is the best channel for you. That's also not a PAL channel. And it does that using spectrum inquiry. We understand that many vendors are working on software releases, if they haven't issued them already, to help you recover dynamically right away in the event of a termination. Now, if your CBSD doesn't support that, the SAS can help you out here. The COEX tab in our SAS portal allows you to configure your CBSD with a grant on the best channel. And this is what I was talking about here. You can manually select the channel after looking at our SAS portal, which is telling you which the best channels are for your device as of that particular point in time. So you can use that to configure a grant on the best channel for you. And I'll show you in just a second how we remove the PAL channels from that, that channel quality. So beyond that, and actually, I guess in addition to that, if you're deploying, again, after April 15th, if you're deploying a GAA CBSD in a PAL protected area, because PALs are going live and they're going to become the reality, the SAS can help you. And I've got a simple demonstration here to show you how we're going to help show you that. And this is after April 15th. The PAL channels will show in use and unavailable. This is updated every day in the channel quality on the SAS portal. So here you can see channel 5 is unavailable. That's probably because it's a PAL channel. In this case, I know it is because I set up this, this demonstration here. So you can always find your best GAA channels via channel update, and the quality of those channels is actually updated every 4 hours. And as a bonus, and another sort of pro tip, a more technical bit of data here, channel quality is also now DPA aware. So that means you'll see DPA activations in channel quality as well. So you don't have to guess about those if you're trying to pick a frequency. And that is the same as Google SAS's Spectrum Inquiry query. So both Google SAS Spectrum Inquiry and our channel quality in the SAS portal are both now DPA aware. An extra pro tip for you. Now, if you're lucky enough to have some PALs and you're joining us today for this webinar, thank you for being here, and congratulations, you now have some homework to do. You have to verify your FRN. And I'll show you how to do this during our live demo. But here's how this is going to work. And again, this answers Domenico's question. When you go and log into your account in Google SAS and verify your FRN, at that point, as soon as April 15th rolls around, Google's going to use that FRN to retrieve your PALs from the FCC database. And at that point, you move to your PAL channels if you'd like protection as of April 15th. And then after the first CPAS is completed, you'll be able to view your PPAs in the SAS portal. All of that because of the FRN. The FRN, of course, is the federal resource number, I think. And anyway, it's your official FCC ID, FCC reference number maybe, that links to the PAL. So because your FRN is in Google SAS, that's what's going to assign the PAL to you. And we've gone ahead and put the FRNs for PAL winners in Google SAS. We've tried to do that using all the accurate databases, but we're encouraging you to go and verify your FRN just to make sure it's right. That way you'll get your protection on April 15th. And we're going to actually demonstrate what those PALs will look like for you if you're a PAL, owner. So hopefully, Domenico and Sean, that answers your questions. David, will get to your PPA generation question in just a second as part of our live demo. If you haven't ever been to the SAS portal and you're watching this webinar, either live or on the replay, and as a bit of housekeeping, if you're joining us late, you can mouse over the video in YouTube and rewind and watch from the beginning if you want. And also, you can click on this same link and rewatch this demo for quite some time. I think we're going to actually publish this in our channel. So don't worry if you miss something, or if you're new to CBRS and this seems a little confusing, you can go back and watch it later. It's totally fine. We do these webinars generally once a month at 10 o'clock on a given Thursday. So click the subscribe button, that red subscribe button, and join us so you can be alerted for future upcoming webinars. We appreciate that. So now our live demo. If you haven't been to the SAS portal, if you're joining us for the first time and you've never been to the SAS portal, encourage you to do so. The URL is right there on your screen. g.co/SAS portal will take you into view your deployment or deployments. And we invite you to go ahead and follow along if you want. Obviously, you're not going to see any PAL information there yet. The only thing you'll see is that FRN, and I'll show you how to check your FRNs. If you it's only important for if you have a PAL. If you don't have a PAL, you don't have to worry about FRNs. It's not going to be there. But that's the only PAL-related stuff that is going to appear in the SAS portal right now. Everything else kicks in April 15th. But I've arranged to have a special, we're entering a time warp here. We're looking fast-forwarding to April 15th in the SAS portal. We'll look at PAL channels. I'll show you those PAL polygons, how they're protected, how they're predicted, and also show you how that FRN verification. So I'm going to switch now, hopefully, to the SAS portal. And this looks like it went smoothly. So I'm going to go and go to full screen, function F11 in Chrome. Here we go. So I'm going to zoom in here. This is not a real deployment. This is our test SAS environment. All of our SAS customers have access to a separate environment, a test SAS, where they can set up CBSDs to do demos and stuff. There's information on that in support.google.com, which is our documentation for Google SAS. I'm going to zoom in here in South Dakota, where I've set up this demo for you with a couple of CBSDs. I'll zoom in a little more. While I'm broadcasting on YouTube, the SAS portal is a little bit slow, so I apologize for the so it's going to be much faster for you if you're following along at home. So here we've got this CBSD in Edgemont, South Dakota. And if you've never used the SAS portal before, you've got your list of devices on the left-hand side and the specifics about that device on the right-hand side. You click on the actual device icon here, which is this little radio icon, and that shows you all the information about your device. The PAL information is all over here in the COEX tab. So I'm going to click on the COEX tab, and we can see a couple of things. The first thing we see here is that the active grant has a P on it, and that P obviously indicating that it is a PAL channel. So I've got a single 10 megahertz PAL channel for the PAL that I set up for myself here in South Dakota. Now, the PAL protection area for this device is located just above the display of active grants. So when I click on the little eyeball, it's going to show me my PAL protection areas, and there they are. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and we're going to take a look at this one that I clicked on here in Edgemont. Now you can see this is a Cat B device. It's got plenty of power, and it's pointing sort of in this direction across town. And you can kind of see, and I did this on purpose, hopefully you can see this little river that's coming through Edgemont, South Dakota here. And the river is in a valley. So this CBSD is operating in a valley, and you can see there's two things that are being used to calculate the PPA. The first is the EIRP of the device in each direction, but the other is the geography. The topology of this valley is limiting the PPA to only within the valley. And that's why, obviously, any GAA devices over here on the other side of the mountains here, they're not going to be causing any interference. So we draw the PPA on this side of the valley, limited by wherever those devices are actually going to cause interference to this PAL operator here. Pardon me as I take some sips of water. I've been talking a lot here. I'm going to scroll now over here to the town of Hot Springs, or maybe it's a city. Apologies to those of you watching in Hot Springs. And here I've got two CBSDs. Now, these are both PAL CBSDs. And you'll notice that the polygon for the PPA has been combined. So when you have two devices operating on the same PAL, the SAS combines their PPAs into one polygon. And in this case, Hot Springs is a little tiny valley area here. And so the PPA, even though these are also both Cat B devices with the same power, these the PPA is further limited because the town of Hot Springs is kind of stuck in this valley here. Now there's one other thing, and this is a long-winded answer to David's question about how the PPAs are decided. There's one other thing that can impact how that PPA is drawn. I'm going to scroll over here to the edge of the county to show you the other way. So this PAL device, PAL protected CBSD, this PAL protected CBSD is right here on the county border. It's actually facing across into a whole different state, the state of Wyoming. But as you may remember from geography, South Dakota has a lot of square, and Wyoming both have very square boundaries, and so this provides an opportunity for me to show you how we draw the PPA. The PPA stops at the county border. So that also limits the polygon, the PPA polygon, because it's not that protection. The protection extends into the other county, but the border of the PPA actually is drawn right here at the county border as well. So that's the other limiting part of the PPAs. And that's what PPAs will actually look like in the SAS portal. I guess one other thing I can show you is they appear over here in the Overlays tab as well. When you click on Overlays, you'll be able to see your PALs here as well. And you just click on the little eyeball if you want to hide them again. So if you're a PAL owner, you're going to be able to do all of this beginning on April 15th in the SAS portal. Domenico asks a follow-up question: how a PAL operator is identified by the SAS? Oh, that was the same question, right? Yep, that's what we answered before. Okay, great. Jill Shoemaker asks, can you download the polygons or see them in the Google Network Planner? Oh, Jill, you're great. Love that question. Maybe I should offer you some. You're thinking in the right way. You're thinking like a product manager. That's great. Great question, Jill. I don't think we have the ability to do that right at the launch on April 15th. We've been working really hard to get the PAL features working. We're doing actually, you may or may not know, all the SAS operators starting today are doing interoperability testing to prepare for the PAL launch. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So I don't think I can say anything. I'm watching my chat here amongst my coworkers to see if anyone has any is willing to put any updates on that. I'll just say, Jill, it's a great idea. I think that it's a very reasonable request, and I would look forward to that being on our feature map really soon. Good question, Jill. Okay, one other thing I want to do for PAL winners, PAL owners, I want to show them. We talked about you've got homework. Here's how you do your homework to check your FRN in the SAS portal. And you may have noticed the sprocket here in the lower left-hand side of the screen. And when you click on the sprocket, it brings up some information about your organization, your deployment, we'll call it. Deployments will become more important in the future, but I'll just call it your deployment. And in this case, we see the user ID, but also the FRN now is shown. And this is new as of today. So if you are a PAL owner, please go click on the sprocket in SAS portal and check to see that your FRN is displayed and that it's displayed correctly. If you don't see your FRN, it means we couldn't find it in our processes, and you'll need to let us know what that is. How do you do that, you ask? You send an email to our support team which is sas-support@google.com, sas-support@google.com. And they will be able to enter the FRN for you. You cannot edit the FRN yourself. It's an official thing, so we have to keep control over that to control access to the PALs. So support can edit your FRN for you. If you need, just send them an email with your FRN if you don't see it up there, or if it's wrong. Hopefully it's not wrong. But this is how you do that. You click on the sprocket and go up there. Again, if you're only operating GAA, if you don't have PALs, you do not need your FRN in Google SAS. It is not necessary, so you don't have to ask for it. And that is all the things I think I wanted to show you on the live demo. So I'm going to switch back to my slide deck here, and we'll go again mention one other thing, which is that our SAS YouTube channel. If you like this webinar style learning, there's hours of content on our YouTube channel about SAS and CBRS. You can check that if you want to learn more. If you're new to CBRS, great content there. Click the subscribe button and let us know. I see one person already liked our webinar this morning. Thank you so much. You can anyway, check out our YouTube channel and and subscribe, and you can be notified of our future videos. Now, that brings us to our Q&A. So I'll give some time for folks to ask questions in the Q&A in the chat. If you have questions that have come up, now is the time. Post them in the chat, and we will go ahead and answer them. One thing that I've been alerted to on my phone, which off to the side here, is that, I guess I'll cheat here and read a little bit, that the PAL channel mapping has just been released to PAL licensees. So what I said earlier about April 10th for the PAL mapping, if you actually own PALs, you should actually have your PAL license, your PAL initial channel assignments today. And you can request swapping until April 9th. So just for PAL operators, if you have a PAL, you should have be notified today what your channel mapping is, but there's a swapping period. So what happens on April 10th, what I was referring to, is the public unveiling of what those channels are. So that sort of becomes final, if you will, on April 10th. So technically, if you are a PAL operator and you want to really be ahead of the game, you can find out your PAL channels starting today, and if you don't want to swap with anyone and you think that those are going to be final, then you can go ahead and start the process of changing and moving your frequencies. If you want to get protection from from the get-go. And I'll give a few more minutes for folks to ask questions in the chat if you have them. If you don't have questions, or you don't want to stay for the Q&A, just two real quick things. First of all, I want to personally thank the engineers and the QA testers who've been working with me to get PAL over the finish line. We are all almost there. It's very exciting, but thank you to the hard work that the Google engineers and QA testers have been doing regarding the PALs to do all of the stuff that I've talked about today. It's a lot of back-end computations and hard work and coding that was put in place. So this is a very exciting time, and so thank you. I just want to take a moment to say thank you about that, and also I'll thank you for watching. If you need to leave, we'll just do some questions and then we'll head along. So thank you so much for joining me today. Follow-up question from David Johnson: how do I find my FRN if it's not under the settings? Well, if you don't see it, David, it means we don't have it. We don't show that FRN field unless there's something. So I invite you, David, to if you have a PAL, and only if you have a PAL, send an email to sas-support@google.com. sas-support@google.com. Let them know what your FRN is. Obviously, you'll need to let us know what your company is as well. And support can take care of adding that for you, and then it will appear in your settings in the SAS portal. Good question, David. Thank you very much. Jill Shoemaker mentioned the Google Network Planner, And for those of you who aren't aware of the Google Network Planner, we do a welcome to Network Planner Quick Start webinar every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So if you're joining us and you like, presumably you like joining us here on YouTube, you can also tune in for those live webinars, which happen at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. Except for next Tuesday. I'm not going to be able to do it next Tuesday, so we've just moved next Tuesdays out a week. So starting a week from Tuesday, we'll have more of those if you're interested in the Google Network Planner product, which is separate from SAS, but Jill mentioned it, so I'll give a free plug there. David asked, where do I find my FRN? Okay, David, let me run, since we got a moment here, let me just go back. I'll flip back to the SAS portal and I'll show you where that lives. You click here. I think what you're saying is, David, how do I know what my FRN is? You can look that up from the FCC. It is the FCC assigns the FRNs. So you have to go query the FCC and find out what your assigned FRN is for your company. And you hopefully, if you have a PAL and you won the PAL is going to be, when you see your PAL, it's going to have the FRN listed there. So if you're not sure what your FRN is, check your PAL communications, because it should actually list your FRN, I think, in that in the PAL winning notification. So now we got a couple other questions, which is great. Okay, so one of my colleagues says it's a good idea. So let me just go back one more time. And I started to do this, but then I realized David might have been asking another question. To find your FRN in the SAS portal, it's right here. When you click on the toggle root settings, this little sprocket here in the lower left, on the right-hand side here, here's where it shows the FRN. I'll highlight it here so you can see it. That's where the FRN will be shown if you have one, right here in the upper right. So there's the recap there. Okay, Anthony Will, thank you for joining us this morning. Anthony, thanks for being a Google SAS customer. For protection area calculations, what is the SI interference level? That's a great technical bit of detail that I don't know. It's probably in the spec, and I don't have that at my fingertips. So if it's all right, Anthony, I'm going to follow up with you offline, and I'll let you know. I'll point you to the point in the area in the specifications where that is talked about. It's a little bit complicated, and I don't want to. For folks who aren't radio engineers, they might not be too interested in that. But there is a interference level that is, and how that's calculated. That's part of the WinForum specs, and I'll link that to you offline if that's okay. Gideon Viator. Hope I'm not screwing that up. How/where would we get a notification about the PALs that are assigned today? Great question, Gideon. I'm not actually sure. I think it's going to come from WinForum. Maybe someone else on the. I see what I did. I did something silly. So Gideon, I think it comes from WinForum. Let me go back. I'll show you the FRN again because I did something silly. I realized my little camera image is here, so you couldn't actually see the FRN. So that was that's where if I wasn't broadcasting from home, I'd have someone running my video for me here. But okay, let me switch back. Trying to multitask here. Apologies. Very sorry that I screwed that up here. Okay, so now you should have a full screen view of where that FRN is. Here it is in the upper right. I could see it. You couldn't see it. It's right here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at the top of this right-hand column. That's where the FRN lives. Thank you very much for that. And Matt Mays says Anthony should report the results. Yeah, it's a great idea. Why don't I in the comments for this video, I'll post it here in the comments. So check back on this video. I'll post the link to the WinForum specs in the comments for this video. How's that? So that you all can be aware as well. That's a good idea. Thanks very much, Matt. And our admin here has put some additional information there for Gideon as well. Thanks very much for that. Okay, any last minute call? This will be the last minute call for questions during this Q&A. Thanks again for sticking with us here and being interested in PALs. Obviously, this is a hugely exciting moment. The world is actually watching how this is shaping in terms of license management in the cloud. This is a big deal, and you're all a part of it. So thanks very much for your patience and your understanding as we approach April 15th and power through that and make some history with licensing in the cloud like this. It's very cool. Any other? Domenico's got one last question. Thanks for typing quickly, Domenico. Any chance to test PALs on test SAS for non-PAL operators? We're not going to be able to do that, as I understand it, Domenico. It's a great thought. You will hear from us if we unveil a test PAL scenario that you can take part in. We're, like I said, trying to get everything ready for that April 15th deadline. So we're a little bit crunched in terms of all the work that needs to be done for that. It is something we'd like to be able to do. We're working right now with the device vendors, the CBSD manufacturers, to make sure that they can test their devices as well. That was sort of our most important thing to do. But a legitimate request, Domenico, we will try to see if we can help you out as a non-PAL or a GAA only operator before we approach PAL launch. So great request, and thanks for that. I will go ahead and close out the Q&A period and thank everybody for watching. It went a little longer than I thought, but we did have some good questions, and thanks for that. If just one more time to reiterate, if you want to rewatch this video, you can go ahead and rewind and watch it from the very beginning. Anytime that link will work, and you can go back and click on that same link in the calendar invite, and also check our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch the videos, this video, and learn more about PALs if you missed anything. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a Google SAS customer. Good luck with your deployments. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time on the next Google SAS Features webinar. Take care.